An audiobook review of The 7-Year Itch by Amy Daws. I read 7-Year Itch by audiobook through NetGalley and Harlequin Audio. Thank you to you both for the ALC. I definitely appreciate being able to listen to something new and discovering a new author that I haven't read before. Let's talk a little bit about the audiobook. So the stats should be on the screen. I definitely didn't have to adjust anything on my audiobook. It is dual narrated, and I found that both narrators had good tempo. They worked well together. Sometimes when you have multiple narrators, you have to adjust your speed because they don't quite match up, and you need some faster, some slower. That didn't happen here. I was totally fine leaving it where it was, and I enjoyed that. I did not as much enjoy the female narrator as I did the male narrator. I felt like the female narrator leaned a little too hard into the end of almost every word and like dragged out the word, and it grated on my nerves after a bit, but by the end of the book I had gotten used to it, and it wasn't unlistenable. I just don't think it's a narrator that necessarily grooves with me completely, but not necessarily a narrator that I'll avoid either. It's just not my favorite. But the male narrator worked out really, really well. I've listened to books by this author or this narrator before, and let's talk a little bit about the book. So The 7-Year Itch is a mountain-esque, small town, enemies to lovers romance, and there are a few things I really liked within this novel. First of all, our FMC is mid-sized and is trying to learn to love her body as she gets older, gets a little thicker. Her body is changing. Her ex-husband, this is also a post-divorce glow-up type book, which was a lot of fun, but her ex-husband had put a lot of, obviously, like, bad connotations about her changing body into her brain, and watching her embrace herself, embrace her new body, learn to love herself was really refreshing and fun. I feel like every time she started to feel down about the changes in her body, she immediately talked herself back up into being the bad bitch that she is, and I really liked that about the book. While it is normal to have thoughts about your body that are not always positive, it is important to remember that you need to build yourself up and change the way you feel about that, and I felt like this character was doing some of that work, and I really liked that about this novel. And speaking of post-divorce content, I really loved the way the character was finding herself, finding what she liked, not just professionally and out in the world, but sexually after a divorce where you were not as happy or fulfilled in all of those areas. And I really liked the way she just grabbed the bull by the horn, so to speak, and was doing everything she could to find herself again. I loved that. I loved the confidence. I loved everything about that. And I really felt it was well done within the novel. That being said, I did have a couple of problems in relation to the characters overall in the novel as well. I never felt really endeared towards either the FMC or the MMC. I didn't really feel the chemistry between them. I also felt like the author was trying a little hard to kind of force a miscommunication trope that just didn't make sense to the characters. Calder, the main male character, I felt was very direct numerous times about how he wanted the relationship with Dakota, our FMC, to progress. And I feel like Dakota purposely just misunderstood him or misinterpreted him. And I'm like, girl, he literally just said in so many words that I want to be with you. I want to make this relationship a thing. And she's just like, well, I don't know why he's saying these things. And I'm like, up until this point in the novel, you have been smart, sensible, realistic, and now all of a sudden you are this complete airhead who doesn't understand a word he's saying. I don't get that. Like, I literally don't understand why you don't understand what he's saying. And that was so frustrating for me because I felt like it was creating a third act communication issue that didn't need to be a third act communication issue, because it didn't make sense for Dakota to not understand his direct statement that he wanted to still see her. Like, I don't understand. Make it make sense, Amy Daws, because I don't get it. And on the tail end of that character issue that I also had an issue with Calder's character, who at the beginning and even in the synopsis, clearly his whole personality is being this one time and gone kind of Casanova that drops in, does his business, and then moves on to the next woman because he is anti-relationship, anti-everything. And I feel like he threw that whole thing of his personality away super quickly. Like, it was like, there was no resistance, no internal, like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know if I really want this. He was just like gung-ho to change his entire life, when it didn't seem like, from what the character was described and depicted as in the beginning of the book, made any kind of sense. I felt like there should have been more of a transition and a resistance to changing his whole life for one woman after being a self-proclaimed revolving door bachelor, and it just seemed a little too quick and easy for me. Now, I still didn't tank this book, even though I had some problems with it. Just because I had a couple things that weren't necessary for me doesn't mean the book wasn't enjoyable. I did have a good time with this novel, enough to rate it above a 3. I think I rated it a 3.25. You can check my Goodreads. I'm not 100% sure. But I do absolutely think that the book was enjoyable, even though I had a couple things that I was like, not every book is going to be a raging 5-star. But it was still enjoyable. I still recommend it. I thought it was fun. So I absolutely think you should give it a shot. If any of this mountain man lumberjack vibe sounds like it's for you, I'll probably read more by Amy Daws, because I did like her representation surrounding plus-sized confident women. I did overall enjoy this novel, even though it had some downsides. And yeah, that's the review. Enjoy if you listen to it.